Dear students, good morning. Let us start the discussion on today's newspaper, that is 9th March 2018. The first article, a new norm for the new norm. So here we need to talk about the new norm, what was developed now. And then a new norm, it means what is this newness in the norm that is aspired for. These are the two aspects we need to cover. And obviously what can be the India's role in this. What is the new norm in international diplomacy? Let us understand the transactional diplomacy. What does this mean? Now, if you see the President Trump, his withdrawal from Paris Agreement, withdrawal from Trans-Pacific Partnership, or his negotiations with NATO, these all are looking at economic benefits rather than grand vision of the politics. This kind of diplomacy, we call it as transactional diplomacy. Today, world is more or less engaged in this transactional diplomacy. India is not an exception. And the second thing, the global groupings are on rise. Especially the regional groupings are gaining significance rather than the blocks. I can put it as ASEAN as a typical example. G20, like that, more and more groupings are increasing rather than the blocks. The third aspect is world is expected to become multipolar soon. As of now, we can see three blocks: USA, Russia, China, three poles. India can become the fourth pole. There can be poles increasing based on the regional character over years. In this context, what was the world norm was standing for? So the West has criticized the norm as a third block. But norm was never intended to be a third block. But however, norm wants to maintain strategic autonomy. The strategic autonomy refers to freedom on thinking and action on international arena. India always stood for norm, and it has definitely helped India too. Now, if you take when United States of America wants UN Security Council to be expanded with Japan and Germany and permanently closing it for the other countries, India has opposed to it. And India took the support of the norm against this. So in that way, norm has served the purpose of India and the third world countries. Now in the changing circumstances, how the norm can be. Here the author talks about IPSA. So India, Brazil and South Africa. So many a times IPSA was compared with BRICS. When BRICS was there, why IPSA? Is IPSA necessary? There is a big difference from the BRICS and IPSA. IPSA is all democratic countries. On the other hand, more or less these economies are equal. In the case of the BRICS, the China is a dominant economic pole and it is an unequal grouping. And there is also ideological synergy missing among this group. So ideologically synergy groups, they can come together and South-South cooperation can be enlarged. Common problems like climate change can be brought in the new norm, which is stated as Norm 2. And what is the role India can play in the Norm 2? Any role India has to play in norm, it has to act like a moral force in international affairs. What is the difference between Jawaharlal Nehru and Prime Minister Modi? Jawaharlal Nehru was more like a statesman. He was a moral force in the international politics, and Prime Minister Modi is more or less transactional. So, this moral force comes if India stresses more on human rights and humanizing the entire international relations. And second, India can only guide the norm if it is strong economically. It is inclusive, strong and pursues the justice, then only it can guide the norm too. That's what this article talks about. So this is in a nutshell about this article. In Pakistan, it's advantage Sharifs. We need not get it into the Pakistani politics, but there are two important points which were very much important to me. One is, in the National Assembly of Pakistan, there is reservation for women. That is one point. So in India, in Parliament or the state legislatures, there is no reservation for women, and women reservation bill is not moving forward. And the second thing is, Punjab is the largest state in Pakistan and like UP. Now, our subcontinent failed to learn something from the West over here. If you take, our federalism is called as asymmetrical federalism. Now, Prussia and the United Germany, it was also kind of an asymmetrical federalism. USSR was also a kind of an asymmetrical federalism. And USA, to an extent, I can say it as, it is able to brought in symmetry through a different mechanism. How let us see it as? If you take, there is a large state like California in US, a small state like Montana. How they brought the similarity between these two states by giving equal representation in the Senate. So, if we want to make the federalism to work, the states shall be of equal size, or the larger states' powers shall be same as the smaller states. But in India, the states are not of equal size. On one side you have Meghalaya, Manipur, Tripura. On the other side you have UP, Rajasthan, Madhya Pradesh, etc. So in this context, unequal states we have, and also unequal representation of the states in the parliament we have. That makes Indian federalism asymmetrical. So in Germany or USSR, if you take the largest province, that is Prussia in the case of then Germany, and Russia in the case of USSR, these were given less number of seats in the Union Assembly or Union Legislature for the reason to bring in balance in power between the various units of the federation. But this balance of power between various units of federation is absent in India. That's why smaller states always complain that their voice is not being heard in the National Assembly in India. That point we need to understand, which has been stressed over here. And the next is friends with benefits. It is about coalition politics. So a word which is regularly used is called coalition dharma, mitra dharma. How the coalition politics survive? One is they shall have ideological synchronization, or there are to be electoral benefits for both the partners, and the third is a common program to drive them. So in this context, NDA 2, it has got substantial majority in Lok Sabha. It is not dependent on its allies, and it wants to grow at the cost of its allies, and it can be clearly seen in the case of Shiva Sena in Maharashtra. And second, unlike UPA 1, where there was common minimum program between the partners to take forward the country, there was no common agreed agenda in NDA 2. Third, electoral benefits have brought the TDP and BJP together, and now the TDP's electoral prospects appears to be bleak because of NDA failing to deliver its promises on special status to Andhra Pradesh. Now, why special status is necessary? And here there are certain criteria which are being stated: economic backwardness, unsustainable finances, and then unsuitable terrain, strategic location, like that. Will AP come under this is the question. And after the 14th Finance Commission recommendations, the benefits which the special category states are going to get, they have drastically decreased. And the center is in no mood to encourage the special category status states after 14th Finance Commission recommendations. So, obviously, as TDP is losing its faith with the people, the way out for it is to move out of NDA. And the first step in it, the TDP ministers have resigned from the NDA government. So here I will see this topic rather than from politics, from coalition politics perspective. So the coalition politics, Prime Minister has become more a negotiator than the leader. And in the coalition politics, and one party has got sufficient majority, and if we do not rely on the partners for its sustenance, obviously the sustenance of the coalition politics is becoming difficult. And coalition politics in India formed mostly on the basis of electoral bargain rather than ideological synchronization. Here if you take, BJP appears to be right-wing. And on the other hand, Telugu Desam calls itself as a secular and inclusive party. So that's why we don't see commonality among them. Chance for peace. It is between North Korea and South Korea. If you see, North Korea sent its team for the Winter Olympics. South Korea delegation has visited North Korea. So before this, North Korea was testing missiles and the nuclear weapons. And South Korea wanted to conduct the military exercises with USA, and they even invited the USA to install these THAAD missiles. Now, USA sees South Korea as a strategic location for itself for the reason that these third missiles and the various kind of sensors which they are going to keep, radars and sensors, they can keep an eye on China. So, my doubt is this. Is USA want the rift between North and South to be continued so that it can have a leverage against China in that particular region, in the East Asian region? So I'm not clear about it. And second thing is, now North Korea is ready for the peace talks. And North Korea, all of a sudden, why it made this drift is because of Moon Jae-in, the South Korean president's insistence on diplomacy, or the North Korean leader has got any specific assurances about the protection of his regime and freedom from military threat. These are not yet clear. But whatever be the case, opening the diplomatic channels for negotiations is always to be welcomed in international politics, and Mr. Trump has to take this opportunity to engage with North Korea. And the history is not expected to be repeated over here. Previously, six-party talks were initiated with insistence of China, but however, they ended up with no result. Similarly, in 1994, Clinton government initiated talks with North Korea, and finally it ended up with more sanctions and making the North Korea part of the axis of evil by the Bush government. Sustenance of the talks, keeping the diplomatic channels open, and ensuring the commitments made are delivered are essential for continuing the diplomacy in this case. Should the left align with the Congress? Now, I will discuss this from broader perspective of choices to the people. Now today, economic choices offered by the political parties are decreasing. What an election shall do? The election shall not just provide the choice among the parties and candidates. It also has to provide the choices among policies and ideologies. Now politically, we have many choices in India. But if you go economically, policy-wise, the choices are decreasing for the people. Now, if you talk about Congress manifesto, BJP manifesto, regional party manifesto, everything talks about attracting the investments, neoliberal economics. And now, left is only the ideologically polarized party with regard to the neoliberal ideals is concerned. It strongly opposes to them. So that's why the left is seen as an ideological challenge to all the existing parties, and it is only offering a policy choice to the citizens. Now, if it meets with the Congress and left comes into an alliance, obviously, what is taken precedence over what? It means the secularism is going to take the precedence over socialism. What does that mean? So, this alliance is preached stating to counter the BJP. And BJP is indicated as a majoritarian party which is promoting cultural nationalism, religious cultural nationalism. To counter this, a secular nationalism has to grow in the country. That's how this alliance is spoken about. Then the leftist idea of socialism, it is going to go drain in under the cover of the neoliberal ideology. So the left, is it ready to lose this sheen? That is what is the question. And the second is, left, can it remain dogmatic and continue its relevance in the politics? Probably not. Left needs to reinvent itself. How it can reinvent itself? See, anything in the life happens in cycles. Now, the entire political spectrum is looking for investments, economic growth, etc. This is raising the inequalities. After a while, the social spectrum moves in another cycle. There will be a more and more stress liking towards the egalitarianism. Once these inequalities reaches to the peaks, then egalitarian cycle is bound to start. And in this context, left has to play as an important instrument through people mobilization, grassroots movements. It has to engage itself more and more with the civil society, working class, farmers who are being deprived of equal share of economic growth. That is one way we can revive it. But the left is talking about state ownership of public sector. But is it relevant today? Because public sector has become very much inefficient in India. But new models are developing. So here in Spain, a new model is being spoken about that is called Mondragon Corporation. So it was very interesting for me, Mondragon Corporation. What this corporation is, everyone is a partner, and then this corporation is of $1 billion size in turnover. The workers are partners. It is based on participative management. It is based on collective ownership. So why can't this kind of forms can be developed rather than insisting on the state ownership? And he talks about Latin America. Liberation theology has come up in Latin America. So this liberation theology was able to hold religion and the left politics together. So Marx, if you see, religion is the opium of masses. The probably left has to move away from that. So religious comfort and the economic equality, preaching of class conflict, these can go together. That's what this author tries to talk about. So whenever you talk about public sector, probably this Mondragon Corporation in Spain, that can stand as a very good example. I loved this example today in the newspaper. And then TDP leaders meet Modi, resign from Union Cabinet. So coalition politics, what these are all about? These are all about pulls and pressures, contestation and bargaining. So the bargaining federalism has got into existence in India and got strengthened because of coalition politics. And then female feticide, a shame. So what are the consequences of the female feticide? I'll give you one surprising fact over here. I think as for NFHS, among the educated middle class, among the wealthy families, the feticide is more. If woman is educated, the feticide is high. That is an important fact we need to remember. And the second, the Prime Minister also launched National Nutrition Mission. The objective of this National Nutrition Mission is to reduce malnutrition in women and children and reducing the low birth weight by 2% each year. That is the objective of National Nutrition Mission, which you need to remember. And in the last page, I gave you the notes that will be available to you at laix.in/CivilsPrep. Thank you very much and all the best.